What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a profile for the second deck from Phantom Revenge. Today is the turn of Hekahands. Now Hekahands is the brand new illusion based archetype that came out in Phantom Revenge, and it does have some very good synergies with illusion based decks that we already have, being Chimera Illusion. Other forms of the deck that you can put together should you want to would also include Kashtira's. You could look at a branded version as well. The version that I've decided to go to is probably more of a pile. It's still a 40 card list, but the idea behind this one is it works into the Hecahand plays, but it also has an aggressive, a continual source of resource, there we go, and ways to bridge between Hekahands and the engine itself, which is of course going to be the Horus. Now I'm going to take you through that, and I thought it'd be quite topical as well, considering the Horus have just been confirmed as reprints in the next of the Chronicles All Foil Edition, being the Charmer decks. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Getting a video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will also unlock a test hand combo video for the deck, just so you can kind of see exactly what the deck wants to try and achieve and how it works with the Horus package. So diving headfirst into the monsters themselves. Now the Hecahand you're definitely going to want to get hold of and get it at free, funnily enough, get your hands on the Hecahands, is going to be your Ibtel. Now the reason the Ibtel is so important is that, quite like its counterpart being the Yugioh, which we'll talk about in a second, is if it battles a monster, neither could be destroyed by that battle. That's just generic what the most illusion monsters have, not all of them. It should have been all of them, but most. But what this allows you to do is it lets you reveal it in the hand, shuffle it back into the deck to then special summon a Hecahands monster from the deck in defense position, except itself. If it's sent to the grave, you get to target a Hecahand monster in the grave, except itself, and special summon it. Now on the flip side of that, your Yugioh does the exact same thing. Reveal it's in the hand, put it back into the deck, and then it will allow you to add a Hekahand spell or trap from the deck to the hand. If it's sent to the grave, you target a Hekahand spell or trap in the grave and add it back to the hand. Oh, sorry, set it to be exact. Now the reason the Ibtel is so important is Ibtel gives you direct access to the next three Hekahand monsters. So that gets you access to your Gygas, your Horus, and your Godos. Now all of these have the exact same effect, that if your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, you can special summon them to the field, which is actually really, really important, as long as it is not during the draw phase or the damage step. Now there are cards like the Hidden Hecahands I'll talk about in a minute, which will allow you to force that activation because it makes your opponent draw a card and then they have to discard a card. But being able to get direct access to either one of these off of the back of your Ibtel is going to be very, very important, because the idea behind that one is your Gygas has the ability to look at the top three cards of your opponent's deck, and then if there is a monster among it, you get to special summon it to your side of the field. Your Horus lets you look at your opponent's hand, one card from your opponent's hand at random. If it's a monster, you special summon it to your side of the field. Now the benefit of that one is that your Hecahand fusion monster allows you to use one monster that is owned by your opponent as the fusion material, which is really, really good. Then we look at the Godos. Now the Godos is actually being utilized as more of a generic kind of hand interaction card that you can utilize in pretty much any deck that you wanted to, if you wished. So this one has the ability, again, special summon it from the hand if your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, except by draw phase or during the damage step. But this one has a quick effect during your opponent's turn. Target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it. Now, it's a shame that it's during your opponent's main phase only, but the fact of the matter is this is a quick effect for during your opponent's main phase, whereas these are not quick effects. So these are what you want to start with, and this is what you want kind of end your field with. Considering that your Hekahand trap cards all want you to control a Hekahand monster, it's probably like one of the best ones to leave on your field. Now these are the cards that have the synergy with the Kashtira monsters, because these are all level 7s and they're just very easily summonable, that can then go into your rank 7 plays. Now keep in mind that your Ibtel and your Yugioh are level 6s, so they're going to get you the ability to work your way into rank 6 if you want to, but more times than not you should really be putting them back into the deck to get you access to your spells, traps, or of course your Horus, your Godos, or your Gygas. Then moving on to the penultimate, or one of the penultimate cards for the Hecahands, is Free of the Hidden Hekahands. Now this is the spell card that when you activate it, you also have the option to send one card from the field, or specifically you control, to the graveyard to add a Hekahand monster from your deck to the hand. Then if you send another card to the graveyard at activation, you get to set a Hekahand spell or trap from the deck, except itself. It has a graveyard effect. To banish it from the graveyard, your opponent draws a card and then they discard a card. This would of course trigger off all of your Gygas, Horus, and Godos from the hand to summon themselves to the field. Now the card you can get access to with the Hidden Hecahands is, one of them is the Hekahands Tartarus. I quite like playing this. In some builds you don't have to, but what I like about this one is it lets you activate one of the following effects. But you can only use each effect once per turn. If you control a Hecahand monster, you get to target a spell trap your opponent tries and return it to the hand. Or you get to fusion summon a Hecahand fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing its materials from the field and or grave. If you use a face-up monster you controlled owned by your opponent as material, it is treated as a Hecahand monster. Now this is mainly to get you into your bigger boss monster being the Hecahand Xeno. Some builds don't play it, that is entirely up to you. Just because you have a bit more flexibility in your extra deck on this one, that is really an option for you, which is why you play the Tartarus. If you don't play that, you don't play the Tartarus, it opens up a bit more space. The final two cards that we play are the one Ibal Hecahand and the one Yugioh Hekahands. So these are the counter trap cards. The idea is that through your route of play, you should be able to get to one of these and sometimes both of them. And that's what I quite like about the Horus package, is because the Horus package has access to number 90, the Photon Lord, which means you've got the monster negate, or it can get you into Hope Harbinger, which means you've got the spell negate, and that means you can get the counter trap of the other side. So what you've got with the Yugioh is when your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control a Hecahand, you negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, and then you get to set that destroyed spell or trap, which is really important. The Ibal Hekahands is when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a Hekahand monster, negate the activation, if you do, destroy it, and then you get to special summon the destroy monster to your field. So it's just basically ways of constantly being able to take your opponent's stuff. So this one kind of reminds me of Totally Awesome, and this one kind of reminds me of just like a snatch steal during your opponent's turn. Now, there are benefits and negatives for something like this. The benefit is they're counter trap cards, so your opponent can only respond with a counter trap card, so unless they've got a judgment already set up, they're not going to be really able to do much. But on the downside of it is they are two brick type cards because they specifically require you to control a Hecahand monster. So if your opponent clears the Hecahand monster off, if you don't pick the right one to what your opponent has on the field, or if they just kaiju you outright, the card kind of dies. So that's something you do need to be very, very careful of, and that's even more of a reason why I quite like the Horus package, just to give me a little bit more recursion, but I can also leave them on the field if I wanted to, and then get all of their hidden effects that a lot of people forget about. Then before I move into the Horus package, the last card, which is probably like the best generic bridge for the entire Illusion and Hecahand builds, is free Nightmare Apprentice. Now hopefully if you move fast enough, you would be able to get these as Starlight rares, because they did come in the Mega Packs of 2025. But this card allows you to, on normal or special, you get to add an illusion monster from the deck to the hand. You can special summon it from the hand by discarding one card. Now the benefit of this one, and a bit of a clash with the Imseti of the Horus, but the idea behind this one is you discard a card, it gives you direct access to your Ibtel, gives you direct access to your Ibtel. You've already got a level 6 on the field. Ibtel then gets you into another monster from the deck, being a Golos or Burus. Or if you want to, you can go for the Yugioh, and then you've got a rank 6 play should you want to go down that route, while also getting you a Hekahand spell or trap. But remember, unless you're getting like the hidden Hekahands, you still need a Hekahand monster for your counter trap cards. So really, really good card. This is the one that bridges from everything else. I'm not saying that this is the best version of the deck by far. I still feel that the best version and most consistent version of Hekahands is going to be with Chimera Fiendsmith. It just gives you a lot more resilience. It gives you an ideal normal summon. It gives you a bit more synergy between the entire deck. This is just a build that I personally quite like playing around with. And with the illusion cards, or like Fiendsmith cards, still a bit of a pain to get hold of everything. And their place in the format might still be questionable. I feel that with the Horus cards being reprinted in January, you can get your Hecahands relatively cheap and easily, and then go, cool, I can trial out this build and give it a go. Speaking of the Horus package, we are playing free Imseti. This is your most important one. So discard it and another card to then allow you to grab your King Sarcophagus and then draw a card so it replaces itself as well. The King Sarcophagus non-activated effects allows you to bring back the Horus monsters from the graveyards, which is really, really important. So that being said, I do play a much bigger Horus package, because at the minimum, what you could be doing is you'd play free Imseti, one other Horus name, and then your 2 King Sark. I like to play all of the Horus names, Protection, Blessing, and Guidance. And the reason I like to do this is it means that if I have more cards I don't mind discarding, it can set me up the ability of not only getting a zombie vampire that can help me bridge into the Hecahands, because if I steal one of my opponent's monsters and I've already got a Hecahand monster in the hand, I can continue to play. Or if I just hit a Nightmare Apprentice off of the back of my mills, I can actually bring the Nightmare Apprentice back, and that searches me out the Ibtel. So there's loads of different ways that it can overlay. On top of that as well, 2 of the level 8s can go straight into a number 90 if I'm worried about a Nibiru or some sort of monster interaction from my opponent. But then I can also go into a Hope Harbinger if I'm worried about a power spell that might cause me issues during their turn. So it's a really, really nice kind of option. You don't have to play them. You can very easily take out Protection, Blessing, or Happy. Like you take out 2 of these, and again, you're opening up more space for some other supporting cards. I'll show you my normal summons very, very shortly, because again, that's one that really does kind of kind of not answered directly, but it gives you a bit more protection against this deck's current weaknesses. And in a format with Drow and Lockbird always running around, that's one of the biggest weaknesses. So we've got 2 King Sarcophagus, and the reason that, just going back actually on Drow and Lockbird, the reason it can be a bit of a weakness, but if you play it right, you're absolutely fine, is Ash Blossom is probably the biggest weakness for the Imseti, because you'd go Imseti and discard another card, so you're already -2. And then with a Drow and Lockbird, it's actually not that bad, because you would go, if you got Drow and Lockbird after the resolution of your Imseti, you've already got your King Sarcophagus, you've already got Imseti, you can get another level 8 on the field, and then you can work into a defensive option. And your Ibtao as well can allow you to set cards and kind of work your way through your Hekahand cards without needing to worry about so much of Droll. And on the flip side of that, your Nightmare Apprentice as well will discard, summon, search, and then get Drolled. You're still able to make a play. The issue is you just won't be able to do the Imseti play and the Nightmare Apprentice play under Droll. So moving on to my normal summon of the choice. Now this is just a card I really like, and I think a lot of people undervalue it, but I think it's a card that if you don't need to commit your normal summon to anything, you can start opening up the door to playing stuff like Lava Golem in the side. You can start playing stuff like Ra Sphere mode if you're able to out it. So I like to start off with the Kokomiru Guardian. Now, the reason I like to go with this card is that I feel that it's such a great normal summon for going first or second. Yes, I could consider Salesband, and I highly consider Salesband in the side deck so that I can double up my protection from certain cards. The difference with Salesband is that if I activate it, you're doing it off the bet that they have exactly what you want to deal with. Whereas with the Kokomiru Guardian, I can normal summon this and I can check an Ash. I can check a Fulos, I can check a Perulia if they've held them back long enough, and I can also check a Droll and Lockbird. It also lets me check a Nibiru without me needing to dedicate one particular name, so it has that range to do it. Going second, quite like Salesband, where I can call Salesband on one particular card on the field that I don't want my opponent to activate. I can normal summon this, and for example, using an SP Little Knight, I can go battle phase, destroy the SP Little Knight with the attack of Kokomiru Guardian because it's a 1900, and then if I need to answer any other monster, I still have that ability to do so. It also trades 2 for 1, and what I mean by that is if my opponent goes, for example, Snatchy, and I go, cool, Kokomiru Guardian, they then need to use their Herald to deal with it, and straight away I've traded off 2 cards for 1, and I still have the rest of my 5 cards to play with going second. Then for the hand traps of choice, or the hand interactions of choice, I got 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Perulia. I decided to go with 2 Forbidden Chalice. There's just too many times where my opponent will try to Lupus me, where they will try and Azuna into Lupus me. Also, you've got Arfulion to try and regain some of its resource, and I quite like Forbidden Chalice. Yes, you can use Droplet, but as I've already mentioned, Imseti wants to discard, Nightmare Apprentice wants to discard. From my starting hand of 5 already, I'm going to have lost 4 cards. Like 4 cards will have been entered the field of play, and I need my Imseti to recover, and I need my Apprentice to recover, and everything else in between. So I felt that Forbidden Chalice is still one of my go-to cards for this current format. The final cards that I'm playing are kind of like disruptive cards, but also extension cards. The next one you don't have to play. I just think it's a really cool tech card that you should be siding, or just play any type of other breaker that you wish. You could very easily bump up your Forbidden Chalice to 3 if you wanted to, but this is Spell Card Monster Reborn. Just another premium card that came in the Mega Packs of 2025. This one lets you target a monster in either grave and special summon it to the field. The rest of the turn, it can't attack, and neither player can activate its effects, which is absolutely fine, because the idea is, and what I quite liked about this, is if my opponent sent a Lupus to the graveyard and I went to use Lupus effect to revive it, I go, cool, chain Spell Card Monster Reborn, bring it back to my field. Straight away, I control a monster that is owned by my opponent, so my Hekahand effects, mainly trying to be able to tribute them to go into the Hekahand Jazar, is already live, which is really important. And then the last 2 cards I'm playing are 2 Fallen and the Virtuous. So the idea behind playing the Fallen and the Virtuous is it just gives you a really good go second option that recycles itself or replaces itself or pretty much sets it up. So you can go, cool, activate Fallen and the Virtuous, send one from the extra deck, grab the other one, activate it again, send another one. The extra deck in this particular build is a little bit flexible. I decided not to go for Super Polymerization because I'm already discarding quite a lot. But if I wanted to play a pure build or a build that didn't rely on the Horus package, you would take out the Imsetis and you could very easily replace them with some other non-engine, whether that be other type of hand interactions, imperms, veilers, you name it. And then you can also consider Super Polymerization. And Super Polymerization would take up the 2 spots in the extra deck that the Fallen and the Virtuous would also take up. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now I'm going to show you the extra deck, run you through exactly what we've got, talk you through a couple of different options you might want to consider as well, depending on what you're trying to achieve and depending on what you have access to. Moving into the extra deck, we are playing 2 Hecahand Jazar. Now, you can play 1 if you want to, but once you go through the first one, it's very easy to get into the second one. And what I mean by that is, you kind of like, of all the other times when you're taking control of your opponent's monsters, you don't always want to leave them on the field. Sometimes you want to tribute them off. You'd only keep them on the field if they're going to be of a benefit to your opponent's graveyard. And I feel you could very easily go through 2. Again, in a different version, that's when you might want to consider not needing to do it. But there's also other benefits in the extra deck that you get from controlling a monster owned by your opponent, and I'll talk through them when we get to them. But your Jazar has the effect that it's a Hecahand monster plus an illusion monster, but it either must be fusion summoned or specialed from the extra deck by triggering 2 monsters you control. One face-up monster owned by your opponent and an illusion monster. If it battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. And during your main phase, you get to add a Hekahand card from your deck or grave back to the hand, which is really important because in the grind state, which is why I quite like playing 2, it lets you recycle your counter trap cards. Then we've got the 1 Hekahand Xeno. So this is like your mini boss monster, or maybe even your main boss monster. So this requires 3 Hekahands, and unlike the Jazar, it doesn't have that additional effect to be able to special summon. It can only be really fusion summoned. It doesn't say it can only be fusion summoned, but it doesn't have the tribute off effect is what I mean. So if it battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, quick effect, look at 2 random face-down cards in your opponent's extra deck, special summon one of them to your field. If this fusion summon card you owned and controlled is destroyed by an opponent's card, you get to take control as a many number of monsters your opponent controls, which is really cool because it doesn't target and you just go, cool, snatch steal everything. Moving on to like generic SP Little Knight, pretty standard on that one. And then for the vampire cards, which is what I really like about this hybrid, I've got the 1 zombie vampire and the 1 Dhampir vampire Sheridan. Now again, you don't have to play these cards. I just really like the fact that I can. Now both of these have the exact same clause. If you use a monster with a level that is owned by your opponent for the XZ summon of this card, you could treat it as a level 6 or a level 8. So it doesn't matter what level your opponent's monster is, even if you get a full loss, you can use it as material to make zombie vampire or Dhampir Sheridan, as long as the other material has the correct level, being a 6 or an 8. So it can be your Nightmare Apprentice, it can be your Iptal, your Yugioh, or of course this can be any of your Horus monsters, and then plus a monster stolen by your opponent. Really good. So Zombie Vampire's benefit is you get the detached material, excavate the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck, or technically send them to the graveyard of your opponent's deck and your deck, and you get to summon one of them to your field, so that's really cool. The Dhampir has another nice effect. So this one is once per turn you get to detach material from this card, target a card your opponent draws, send it to the grave. Once per turn, if a monster card or cards is sent to the grave, sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard by card effect, or a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, detach material and special summon one of those monsters to the field in defense. So again, taking control of one of your opponent's monsters. What I like about this deck is if you really wanted to, and I quite like the idea of a pure version, but the pure version usually kind of leans more into going second, because what you would do is you just play a lot of like mind controls, snatch steals, change of hearts, and the Eye of Illusions. And I actually quite like the idea of putting Eye of Illusion in the side deck, or it could even take up the space of the Monster Spell card Monster Reborn, for the pure fact that it lets you basically take control of your opponent's monsters during their turn. For the other rank 8 we're playing is the 1 Sandapod. So this is mainly in here as a way to kind of shut off your opponent's special summoning cards back from the graveyard. If they don't do that, you can take this card out completely and it opens up some space. Pretty staple on the number 90 Galaxy Lord. This is your Monster Negator. Hope Harbinger is your Spell Negator. Ding is your Destruction Protection as well as a non-target send. Buzz King, again, is quite a grey area. You could very easily, and honestly, there's 2 cards in the extra that I'm going to show you that are extras to this. But these 2 are like your flex options. These are the ones that you would adapt depending on the environment and utility and how much you get out of it. Buzz King does give you a bit of burn damage, but it's more so looking at your opponent's extra deck and taking one from it. So imagine taking one from your opponent's extra deck in this one, but then also taking one from your opponent's extra deck with your Xeno during your turn, and then another one during your opponent's turn. So you're taking away 3 cards from their extra deck. But very specific matchups, very specific environments, take them out if you need to. The 1 Typhoon and the 1 Zeus, again, not entirely staple on these ones. You have a bit of flexibility as to how you like to approach these. It does open up the extra deck for 2 additional spots, which I'll talk about in a very short second. So the final 2 are Titanicad and Albion. It doesn't need to be Titanicad, it can very easily be a second Albion. The idea is you just need 2 targets. It can be sent from your opponent's extra deck, from your extra deck to the graveyard with the Fallen of the Virtuous to get you access to the second Fallen of the Virtuous, which will be the Albion being the first one sent, and then the second one can be anything you want to. If you're going to play an Ecclesia, of course you can utilize this card a little bit more. It could be the Dogmatica, the Dragon that Devours the Dogma. It really doesn't matter which one you go for, it just gives you the option of either or. So that's it for the entire extra deck, but then just to show you a couple of different options. So if you're playing Fallen and the Virtuous, you play these two. If you like the idea of playing Zeus and Typhoon, by all means you can play those. Then of course you do have the Buzz King and your Sanapod. But if you're like, you know what, I want to try something a little bit different, the other cards you can consider in one of the spaces is you could also consider like SP and the Gorgon. But I also quite like the idea of considering 2 level 11 synchros. How do you make the level 11 synchros? Well, this will come down to your hand trap allocation in your deck, because at this exact moment in time, which is why I'm not playing these, but it would basically be any Horus monster plus an Ash Blossom, a Ghost Ogre, a Ghost Bell, you name it, as long as it is a tuner. And because you don't rely on your normal summon as heavily, you can very easily just go, cool, normal summon down this, synchro these two off. Another fact of the matter is, because you don't rely on your normal summon that heavily, you could very easily, quite like what the Enneacraft are currently doing right now, is you could very easily use one of your monsters to tribute offer a Vanity's Fiend. Degenerate, but that's an option for the side deck as well. And that is pretty much it for the entire build. So what I'm going to do after this one, if the video gets 50 likes, I will bring you a test and combo video. So you can see how this deck tries to operate, what it wants to try and do. Like, I really like the Horus cards. I like how aggressive they are. I like how they can kind of recycle themselves as well, as long as you can keep the King Sarcophagus on the field. And then add all of that together with your Hecahands trying to disrupt your opponent, take their cards, minimize their advantage as well as possible. I thought this was a very, very fun option. Like I said, I feel the most consistent version of the deck will be the Chimera Illusion Fiendsmith. I feel that probably the most... I'd probably say that this is on par with the Kashtira version. I just feel that the Kashtiras are more disruptive than the Horus cards themselves directly. But I think the Horus cards are probably just as aggressive and a little bit easier to enter the field of play without needing to rely on Kashtira Theosis or Kashtira Birth. Again, that might be a bit different when we get the Kashtira reprints, which I believe are going to be in Rarity Collection 5 next year. But for now, the quickest, easiest, and earliest one you can get to after the Charmer decks will be a build like this. Another one that I really also do want to try out is White Forest, or like Azamina version. I think could be really kind of cool as well. But that's something I want to do a bit more research in before I profile it for you all. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, the whole 9 yards. I will also be bringing you cool tunes, doing the exact same as a deep deck breakdown, a full profile, and then like a test down combo video as well. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.